Here we go then with talking points this week. It's all been pretty entertaining stuff, hasn't it, between John Gosden and Aidan O'Brien. In interviews yesterday, John Gosden said, I think I've irked Aidan with my comments about his tactics. And Aidan, of course, for the second time, in response to something you raised, had said that John whinges after races. I mean, it's been a good bit of byplay. Yeah, it has. I mean, it started, I suppose, or it went to another level. Obviously, there's always been a little bit of tension, I think, between the pair of them over the years. John Gosden has often said, we'll go somewhere if it's a clean race. Mm-hmm. Huntinghorn, as I've always said, if there'd been any justice in the world, Huntinghorn would have covered in Abel, because in the she was wearing him all the way around. Shed, they passed like ships in the night, but those two actually built up quite a relationship in their races. Yeah, so in the build-up to the Irish champion, of course, which Ombudsman did not run in, John Gosden said that he wouldn't appreciate running against multiple entries from one stable in the straight. I can't do John Gosden's voice. It sounds like Cliff Richard, so forgive me, viewers. Well, he doesn't sound like Cliff Richard. You sound like Cliff Richard if you try and do John Gosden. Let's clarify that. Aidan said to our own Don McLean that John whinges a little bit. And then you wound him up again in the presser. I said, you said with a glint in your eye that he whinges, and Aidan said, John can whinge a little bit after races, whether he wins or loses, but it's always good sport, and I only say it light-heartedly. We treat every single horse with the utmost respect, and that'll never change. To which Gosden, poked by Matt Chapman yesterday, said, I think I might have touched a nerve. That was a bit... Cliff Richard again, yeah. He's getting a little bit irked, isn't he? To which Aidan responded that he never gets... With a huge grin on his face. Unfortunately, of course, in the what had been billed as round three between Delacroix and Ombudsman, the pesky Frenchie ran in and stole the show. How do you view this? With a smile, I presume, like everybody else.
Mountains and molehills. This is nothing. This is a stocking filler for talking points.
No, William, it's not. It's not.
It's fodder for you, Dave.
Because it is fodder, and it keeps people talking. Yeah. And in British horse racing, particularly, one is never confident. One is always hopeful. You know the old cliches. He's just a big baby. And when there is a bit of tension between two players that threatens to poke through the surface, that is interesting, and it is news. It might be trivial. Of course, it's trivial, but lots of news is trivial.
Fair enough. OK, I take your point, but I think they're very competitive, both very good, both want to win all the time, and I wouldn't make too much of it.
Who do you think has got under the other one's skin more?
What's number two? Look, I think you know, John is a very competitive guy, and you know, there's a little bit of friction. They don't go out for dinner, I'm sure. There's possibly a little bit of friction, but honestly, it's only just, I'm sure in Australia, James McDonald and Zach Purton don't get on very well. You know, they're competitive, they want to be the best, and they want to be the best. And Aidan is the best in Ireland, and has been forever. And John would like to be the best in England, or recognised as the best, and he's the best trainer England can offer at the moment. No disrespect, Andrew.
So if John Gosden's saying, you know, I'm going into the Lion's Den and I don't want to face 5 horses from the same stable, is he just... His view would be that he's just brave enough to articulate what everybody else thinks. Aidan seems to be playing it with a big smile and quite enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that's right. And John... It's an un-Gosden-like statement, that, because, you know, everyone thinks lots of different things about other people, but you very rarely say it, and, you know, I don't know why he felt that, but there you go. I mean, when Economics won the Irish champion, there were 8 runners, and the Coolmore horses were drawn, we were drawn 8, and they were 4, 5, 6 and 7, 4 of them. And but I didn't have a sleepless night thinking, what are we going to do about it? You just get on and try and win the race, and he did.
Have you ever had a whinge, do you think?
I whinge all the time, but only to Maureen. So, yeah, I whinge about lots of people to Maureen, but I don't whinge to you or Dave.
OK, no whinging.
I hope so.
OK. David, can we talk about Oisin Murphy, his 5th championship? And it's been a very interesting week, I think, observing him and what he's been saying about the season, about the challenges that he had, most of which were of his own making earlier in the season, and the way he's overcome those and used those to spur himself on to a 5th championship. It's been an interesting human study. There's been some interesting stuff published on it.
It has. And this week, you know, there are any number of press calls that are arranged these days, aren't there? Most of them on Zoom. You don't get to visit the stables and annoy the trainers by getting in their way. And most of them, I've always thought, they're pretty much like for the feckless and the lazy, who can't be bothered to pick up a phone themselves and ring someone or go to the racecourse and ask a question. And most of the time, I haven't got a lot of time for them. But there were some interesting ones this week. Obviously, Aiden talking about John Gosden, and Oisin Murphy's was really interesting. He said that the car crash in April, the reaction to it, I'll read the quote. Like anyone with an addiction, you have to work very hard at it. And unfortunately for me, I relapsed and I've had to pay the price for it since. That's probably what motivated and fueled this championship title push. Oisin Murphy was smoking a cigarillo during this Zoom call, which is also quite unusual. Yeah. And he also said that he wouldn't be riding into his 50s, and that there are other things to do. There are more things in the world and in life than sitting on a horse and trying to make it go faster than the others. Really, a very interesting, I thought, interview. Obviously, we've got. Is it Sacrifice in all good bookshops, Order in Time for Christmas, which tells the story of 2024. I make 2 points. That I don't agree with Oisin Murphy's view that was expressed earlier in the summer, that the media plays any sort of role in his travails over the last couple of years. I have deep sympathy with anybody who has addiction problems. I think we've all had a brush with them ourselves at certain points in our lives. And what he does on horseback, particularly you notice it when there's no Ryan Moore about, he is an absolutely supreme artist on horseback. And speaking personally and professionally, I hope that those demons stay away and that he can continue doing what he does for many years to come. He's an interesting character. He's cast himself as a character of some depth in some of these interviews this week, William. And the counterpoint struck me between someone who is going to every meeting, riding every horse in every race and giving everything to every horse, whether it's in a Group 1 or a seller at Wolverhampton or whatever. You know, the body of work this year suggests that he is deeply driven by the day-to-day business of the sport, yet quite a lot of what he says hints that actually he wants to find a bit more colour in his life. He wants things to be a little less turgid on a day-to-day basis. It's an interesting contrast, I suppose. I don't know what you make of him.
Yeah, I don't really know him very well, actually, to be fair. I had lunch with him in Cape Town in January, and I thought he was a perfectly normal person, but a lot of his life is not normal. One thing, as Dave says, is quite right. He is an outstanding rider, but he's got away with blue murder on the racecourse for a while, and he's a complicated soul, unfortunately. But his talent as a rider there is no doubt he's the best around.
When you say he got away with blue murder on the racecourse,
well,
do you mean he's got a bit of a X on the...
It really, really upset me. I've been very upset over the past few years with the professional foul that jockeys do, that sort of leaning across a horse and then pulling the stick through and then going to win by lengths. But if you're on a bicycle in a bicycle race and you have to stop suddenly, you can't actually get going again. And that's what, horses win by a length, and they say, well, it's won too easily. And the jockeys know, and they do it a lot. And the incident with Corinth and at Sandown, I thought he deliberately, personally, and I'm going to get into tricky water here, but I thought he deliberately made sure that Harry Davies didn't win that race. And it got taken off him. But to say that was accidental is complete and utter madness, I think. And if they don't step on this, we're going on a different subject now, but we have to step on this sort of thing because that, in my opinion, was bordering on dangerous. And if he'd come down and gone to hospital, yeah, and he was right. If he'd fallen and gone to hospital, they'd have made a song and dance of it. And that is not the way to be riding from our champion jockey. And I know he probably won't speak to me ever again, which is fair enough. But, you know, that's not his fault. He's been allowed to get away with it. And that is something I think that stewards should be looking at more closely.
And the higher up the chain you are, and the better you are, and the more confident you are, and the closer to the edge you feel you can ride because you are that good, you are going to be the one that's pushing those rules closest. If those boundaries aren't set properly, and as you say, it's then the boundaries aren't being set properly, are they?
It's very easy to do. Personally, and again we're on a different subject, I would not have jockeys in stewards' inquiries, because I think they look after themselves, because they're ride and they're with each other all the time. And I would just keep them out and let the stipes and the stewards make the decision, the end.
In fairness, people like Oisin, Ryan Moore and the great jockeys before them, they can advocate better than all the others.
Of course.
So,
of course. But, you know, that has been allowed to get worse in recent years. I don't know whether Dave agrees, but I think so anyway.
We're going to move on.
Yeah.
Because the many of the big firms are either threatening shop closures, or those shop closures are manifesting themselves. The latest is from Betfred.
Yes.
So they're going to close all their shops if the tax rises come in. Now, at what point does the government say, yeah, you're crying wolf?
Well, we will see, won't we? There are three firms, I'm going to quote you. This was a BBC piece that I think appeared late last night. All 1,287 Betfred shops could disappear from the UK High Street if Chancellor Rachel Reeves hikes taxes on gambling firms, the company's co-founder and chairman has told the BBC. So that's that would put 7,500 jobs at risk. And earlier in the week, Paddy Power said they would close 57. Not that I think that is now, that will happen with the loss of 250 jobs. And Hills have said that they stand to close up to 200. So again, this is, as you say, it's not quite a final push with regard to the racing tax and what will happen in the budget. But clearly, as you say, they're marking their territory, aren't they, in terms of retail closures? Do you think there's anything that can be said between now and the budget that is going to change whatever is in Rachel Reeves's mind or the mind of the Treasury policymakers?
I don't know how it works, but I would think they've made their decision already, and that's parked to bed, and there are other things too. Do
you think racing's done a decent job over the last few months?
I think, yeah. I mean, it's all about harmonisation, and should racing be penalised tax-wise as much as online gaming. Online gaming has grown unbelievably over the past 10 or 15 years. And you read a statement like that, Dave, and you think, actually, who goes into betting shops now? I mean, my son is young, or youngish, 32. I can't think he'd go into a betting shop now. Everything's done on his telephone. So are betting shops becoming a thing of the past anyway? I mean, they're obviously... Well,
that's... I mean, and again, with not just bookmakers, but with corporations generally, it's... If this happens, we will do this. Well, I think you were going to do that anyway.
Well, it's possible.
It's a false bid. But betting shops, I mean, I love betting shops. My first job in racing was doing the board in a shop in Bedford when I was at school, and I absolutely adored it, and it's why I sought to work in racing professionally. But of course, they were vibrant. It was horse racing and dogs. It was vibrant. It was full of people. The plastic strips in the doorway in the summer.
It's not now.
No, it's not. There's no one in there.
I mean, I don't go into betting shops, but they're gone now. Betting shops are...
And maybe going more briskly if this week's news is anything to go by. Now we're going to rattle through the rest of these talking points. We've got lots to get through this show. Sir Delius is a horse formerly known as Delius, who has done great things in Australia this year. He's won his last 2 Group 1s in devastating fashion. He's the most exciting horse down under. He was going to win the Cox Plate, he was going to win the Melbourne Cup, and the Racing Victoria veterinary panel have said, no, you're not running, because it has shown that he is a heightened risk of injury with PET scans and CT scans. Trained by Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott. Adrian spoke yesterday. They still have the option of running in Sydney, which, of course, in itself is something of an anachronism. William, you've trained a lot of horses to win in Australia. This has certainly shown people that the conspiracy theories about Aidan O'Brien being in the crosshairs are wrong.
Well, I think it's good from a European point of view, or outside Australia point of view, that a big local horse has not been able to run. It happened a few years ago with Durston. I think the Highclere horse who won the Caulfield Cup was favourite for the Melbourne Cup and got scratched. But Nick, I'm disappointed with your journalistic talents.
Go on.
I mean, how you haven't got Gay? The world is waiting for Gay to say something.
I sent a message to Gay.
Did you?
I did send a message to Gay. She sent one back saying it's a very sad day. On matters such as this, Adrian is better qualified to talk. He did an interview with Bruce McAvaney on Channel 7 yesterday, where I thought he was very diplomatic and very good. Maybe Gay felt
it's a tough one because whatever she says is, you know, they're not going to change their mind, and it's just really disappointing. And you know, they're trying to protect the Melbourne Cup. They've had too many fatalities, and you know, they go about it in a fairly draconian way. Although they're easing, you know, it's not quite as bad as it used to be. But they don't want fatalities in the what they conceive to be a good global race. But it's not becoming a global race because the standard is not what it used to be.
What can a PET scan and a CT scan show you then? It can show you
everything.
Yeah. But what is it that... So if you've got a horse that's 100% sound, that doesn't have a fracture or anything like that, what are they looking for that's the weak spot?
Fissure fractures. So it's a
lesion or
a pod lesion, they call it. But they're only really interested in ankles because they shatter, and the horse would have
fetlock joints, basically. Yeah.
So it's the 4 ankles are the main. So a knee, if a horse fractures a knee in a race, he'll hobble off and repair in time. But an ankle fracture is
you get those condylar fractures.
Is a disaster.
Yeah.
So they're basically centred on those.
Okay. Cheltenham. Quickly pivoting to Cheltenham Festival. Yesterday, Friday, which was a slightly odd timing, the announcement, they tinkered with the race programme. Now, this will get people wound up because moving races around at Cheltenham always does, Dave.
Yeah. It was certainly quite an odd moment to break it, wasn't it?
So the Mayor's Hurdle's gone from Tuesday to Thursday. The Plate, which is a 2.5-mile handicap, has gone from Thursday to Tuesday. The running order's rejigged. It means you get the Fred Winter as the 3rd race, which is taking the air out the balloon a little bit on the first day.
You can now buy a pint of Guinness for less. You can drive your car and park it on a hard standing cover.
Yeah.
Not while drinking the Guinness, of course. And you can now watch a mare who should have won the Champion Hurdle. You can now watch that on Thursday instead of the Tuesday. I'm making light of this, but will it really make very much difference? John Pullen said of Cheltenham said, having previously been run on Champion Hurdle Day, the Close Brothers Mayor's Hurdle was always somewhat in the shadow of the Unibet Champion Hurdle. Well, that's true. This has been particularly evident in recent years, and it was elevated to Grade 1 status and taking place as the race immediately before the Champion Hurdle on the card. Didn't need to read that last bit out. It's sort of... It's... I don't want to say rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, but we're going to need more serious changes, aren't we, to the programme than simply just moving the tiles around the board.
It struck me with the sort of more races at Cheltenham now. If your mum's horse that won the Gold Cup, Silver Buck, was your mum's horse, wasn't it? Yeah. If the Ryanair Chase had been around now, he'd have been quick enough to run in that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think there were only 3 days in there.
Yeah, there were. Yeah.
So,
do you think the Dickinsons would have split them all up?
Yeah, they would probably.
Yeah.
But that wasn't to be, but they created history anyway the following year.
Do you still love it?
Not as much as I used to. I have a horse for Michael Buckley, and I'm very friendly with him, and I cried like the whole of us cried when Constitution Hill went through that bad patch, and I think me personally would love him to come back and be the champion we all know he is, and I hope you think so too. And that's the beauty of jump racing. You know, he was a star. He's just fallen from grace a bit. Let's hope he can become a star again.
Got any jumpers?
No, please.
What about that horse that's gone to Mullins's of Tony Bloom's?
Yeah,
nice horse, the little horse.
Yeah, Patrick was quite keen
What's
for
he
him.
called? My brain's
the
gone.
Reverend.
That's it, yeah.
He was keen to go to Mr. Mullins last year, but I thought he was a little bit small and weak and weedy. And he's gone this year, and he's not a great, big, robust horse, but he's talented.
Yeah, and Mark Howard was saying he's the horse he's most looking forward to seeing this jump season.
Really?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Sales spending. We've talked to Oliver St Lawrence. How many yearlings did you get out of the sales this year?
I don't know really, but a few. A lot of our yearlings are homebreds.
Okay.
But we will get a few, I suppose. Yeah.
And the BHA this week has sort of tried to reinforce the message again to government that multi-million pound or guinea figures are not reflective of the health of the industry as a whole. You can see the point they're trying to make. What's likely to be the response from the outside?
The figures are up, but Sheikh Mohammed was here in person this year, which hasn't happened every year, and he spent close to 20 million pounds or guineas on horses. And, you know, at the top level it's strong with Coolmore, obviously, Juddmonte occasionally, Ammo a lot, Wathnan a lot.
But the middle of the market's struggling, right?
The middle of the market is struggling, and the English owner-breeder is struggling. There are lots of holes in what appears to be a rosy outlook, but it's not as it's not as strong as it is perceived to be.
Can you keep your numbers next year at where they were this year? Are you one of those few trainers that is fairly well insulated?
Well, we try hard to ensure that we get what we can, and not quite as many as we can, but what we can in quality. But I think we'll be all right for another year, yeah, for sure. But, you know, I can tell you some trainers are struggling to make ends meet, and it's difficult. It is really difficult. The costs are going up. We all talk about prize money. The prize money is strong. There's just, in my opinion, far too much of it. Far too much racing, far too much catering for low-grade horses. So many restricted races. I mean, I have a lot of 2-year-olds to run now that need to get on the grass before the all-weather. I don't really like the all-weather. And every single race at maiden seems to be a restricted race for what is perceived to be the lesser horses. And I think at this time of the year, Dave would go to Nottingham, for example, to try and see a Gosden Star, a Beckett Star, a Appleby Star, or possibly even one of mine, something win by 6 lengths and be favourite for the Derby. They don't go to see the 0 to 70 nursery or the thing, you know, and with far too many restricted races, need to get these horses out on the grass, get them racing. They don't win, all of them, but they need education. They learn nothing, in my opinion, running around the all-weather. And, well, anyway, so I got that off my chest. I wasn't even intending to start there. Sorry.
Excellent. But you did, and that's what we're here for.
Sorry.
That's why you can come in every week if you want to.
Thank you.
The Jockey Club are having a bit of a change. So 2 of the chairs, now these are non-executive positions, so draw your own conclusion as to how influential they are. But Brian Finch is standing down from Epsom. He's come to the end of his term. And at Cheltenham, Martin St Quintin's going. They're being replaced by Andy Hornby, who was once a senior executive at Corals, and he was at the same time when Jim Mullen was at Ladbrokes, the new CEO of the Jockey Club, and when the merger took place. And he's been a committee member of Epsom for a while. And Michael Wainwright, who is the boss of his family firm Boodles, he's taking over at Cheltenham. Of course, Boodles sponsored the Gold Cup as well, from Martin St Quintin. Also, in a bid to revivify the Derby, with Charlie Boss, the Jockey Club CEO of Racecourses, sorry, Chief Managing Director of Racecourses, not CEO of Racecourses, Managing Director of Racecourses, he's leaving in December. They've put Amy Starkey, who was heading something called Project Newmarket, into Epsom to oversee the kind of rebirth or putative rebirth of the Derby. There you are. Got that?
Yes. Amy Starkey's input's going to be very interesting, I think, in this one, because we talked at the start.
To work alongside Jim Allen,
yes, of course,
the general manager.
We talked at the start of the programme about Newmarket's Rowley Mile being a fairly forbidding place to go. And my experience under Amy Starkey's stewardship at Newmarket is that it's become a much livelier, much better populated racecourse. It's not all stuff, it's not all people coming to watch the racing and making notes round the paddock, the après racing, quite a lot of loud music and young people with their drinks, etc. But it's made for a vibrant and a noisy atmosphere on course. Certainly from my first visits to Newmarket, which were in the late 80s, it's become a much different place, the Rowley Mile. The July course looks after itself, doesn't it? But
can Amy, with Jim, rescue the Derby?
Let's hope she can, yeah. Amy's very able, as is her replacement at Newmarket, Sophie Abel, well named. And it's going places. Epsom will be fine.
There are lots of...
Now, you don't often hear that.
Epsom will be fine. They're trying, the Jockey Club are changing under Baroness Harding and Jim Mullen. They are changing. They see the issues. They're tackling them. Good on them.
Well, those were this week's talking points. William's just looked at his watch and said, I need to go, because you need to find out what high clear yearlings you're getting. And look, you're such a company man, you've even put their colours on.
Yeah, no, yes.
Harry will be pleased. He'll be looking at that going, give him another one. I'm
taking this off when I get there.
Yeah, good luck.
It'll be a woolly coat.
OK, and I do hope the news is better for Merchant next time we have this conversation.
Thank you, Nick.
And thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
I hope economics is OK, whatever he does now.
Thank you.
William Haggas will be with us, I'm sure. How long's it been since your last appearance? About 4 years, 5 years?
A long time ago, yeah.
So in 2033, we'll see him again. When you rejoin us after this break, we'll be joined by a man trying to rebuild his life and career after what was a career-ending fall. Gerard Harney joins us next.